When looking at the NFL from afar, you can tell which teams are good, which teams are not good, and which are in the middle. Some like the Kansas City Chiefs are blueprint models for long-term success, while others like the Jacksonville Jaguars are models for how to not construct a franchise. In today's video though, we will be discussing a few NFL teams that are in between the Jags and Chiefs, and simply put are in trouble with where their franchise is. Now, what I want to get clear is it's okay to be in between these teams, as that's 99% of the league, maybe with the exception of the Jets, but the few teams we will discuss today are in what I would say concerning states. Before we start though, I want to say I am doing a giveaway for the channel, and if we hit 18,000 subscribers before the new year, I will give away a Saquon Barkley autographed jersey to one lucky subscriber. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video, as each only take a second to do, and with the giveaway opportunity, you guys obviously now have more incentive. Either way, the support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And we start today's video discussing the Houston Texans. This goes back a few years with this team and how they have become as bad an organization as they have, but we'll start with the Lamar Jackson trade in 2019. They traded 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for a franchise left tackle, and yes, there were other pieces in that trade, but we're focusing on the Tunsil for picks in today's video. This was a mistake because they chose not to pay Dwayne Brown, who is a very good player in his own rights, only to pay double what they could have paid Brown, and gave up multiple first-round picks while doing so. This was really the first major cause for concern with this franchise in terms of their future outlook, and of course, the other was in March when they traded DeAndre Hopkins for a pawn shop style deal. DeAndre making the play he did Sunday reminded every Texan fan truly how bad of a trade that was, and really pulled the band-aid on a still very wounded sore. Anyways, what I want to get clear is Tunsil isn't a bad player by any means, it's just they had a good player already there and chose to double the salary and give up 2 first-round picks. That was really the first poor decision to get this franchise where it is, and DeAndre is of course the second. Now fast forward to November of 2020, and the Texans are a 2-7 team with a very bleak future. So the question I would ask you guys is this: what do you realistically think the Texans can do in the next 3 to 4 years? Now, fair or not, Romeo Crennel will be out at the end of the year, as he is 73 years old and won't be the future head coach. Fair or not, that's just the way it will go, and the NFL ultimately is a business. How much the coaching candidates like DeShaun Watson will determine the quality of the next head coach they can get, because some candidates simply don't want to go to a team like the New York Jets where they have to deal with an owner like Woody Johnson. The recruitment there though is Trevor Lawrence. But for Houston, the recruitment is DeShaun Watson, as he is the Texans franchise. And for what it's worth, I would trade JJ Watt while he still has some value, because let's be honest, they're not going to win the Super Bowl in the next 2 or 3 years. It's just not a reality. Not only that, but they are in a state of mediocrity and really in limbo because they're not committed to being good or bad. And although their record is 2-7 now, it doesn't do them much justice, given their first round pick will go to the Dolphins. Head coach and general manager, or former head coach and GM, Bill O'Brien set this team back a few years with how he handled some things at the end of his tenure, but with DeShaun Watson and Lamar Jackson being 25 and 26, they still have time to right the ship. Those 2 players are undoubtedly the building blocks of the next tenure we'll have to work with, and as we said, the next GM will face a tough decision, and that is JJ Watt's future. JJ isn't just a good veteran player, he's been a face of the city and franchise for the past decade. He is so well known for how good of a guy he is off the field that trading him will be a decision that comes with a lot of scrutiny. What will be good for the next head coach is having DeShaun Watson, and that is something I am looking forward to. As of now though, this team is not in a good situation, and they don't have many things to look forward to or to keep them going. And now we go to the Windy City to discuss the Bears and ultimately their future. They recently lost to the Vikings on Monday night, and it was a horrendous game for them, as their only touchdown came on a Cordero Patterson kick return to start the second half. I think it's more than fair to say Nick Foles is not the long-term answer, and this season has more than proven that. Mitch Trubisky, as we found out relatively quickly, was not the answer, and it's gotten to the point where he's inactive and isn't even given a chance to back up. So with this team, what is the next step? Matt Nagy became the head coach in 2018 and seemed great at the time, as Mitch made a Pro Bowl that year and they were a double doink away from winning a playoff game. Fast forward 2 years later, and they haven't had a first round pick since Roquan Smith in 2018 due to the Khalil Mack trade, and Matt Nagy could very well be coaching for his job. With an offensive-minded coach like Nagy, you expect them to be able to create points and make defenses uncomfortable, and simply put, it hasn't been that in 2020. Now, he doesn't have a lot to work with, to be fair, but ultimately the Bears started out 5-1 and are now 5-5 heading into their bye week, and their future does not look bright, to say the least. The good news for Chicago, though, is they will have a first-round pick for the first time in 3 years this year, but what will they do with it is the question. My guess would be, given that they're likely missing out on the playoffs, is they will draft a quarterback. Now, what's good for them is this is a very quarterback-heavy class, so they will get a quality player, it's just a question of who. Trevor Lawrence will be long gone, as the Bears have already won significantly more games than they would need to be able to acquire him, and they're not going to get Justin Fields either. What's going to be tough for Chicago, though, is do they fire Matt Nagy or do they keep him and let him have 2021 with, at this point in time, I'm assuming, a rookie quarterback. They won't win a Super Bowl with Mitch or Nick Foles, at least not the full season Nick Foles, but they're not going to win one with a rookie quarterback either. Nagy, and assuming the Bears finish with 7 or 8 wins this year, has never had a horrendous 3-13 type year, and from what we've seen, he can win a playoff football game. Now, what's particularly bad for Chicago is whoever they start under center next year will probably need some time to adjust, and simply put, their offense aside from Allen Robinson is not good. It's not like they have Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas, George Kittle, and all of these weapons on the team, and they just need a guy to throw them the ball. Not quite. Their whole offense is bad, and if I were making a decision on Matt Nagy's future, I would let him ride it out because he hasn't had great players to work with for what he does best, which is coach the offensive side of the ball. With how good their defense is, if the Bears had even an average offense, then they would be legitimate contenders. This is a big reason as to why I would keep Nagy, and with how bad the Bears quarterbacks have been for seemingly ever, they're going to hit on one at some point, and it's just a matter of when. If they do end up hitting on one in the 2021 class and keep the defense the way it is, then we could be looking at an NFC counterpart to the absolutely loaded Kansas City Chiefs. And lastly, we go to the Baltimore Ravens to discuss a team that, simply put, hasn't been the same team in 2020 as they were in 2019. Yes, they go into Week 11 with a 6-3 record, but after a loss Sunday night, and an ugly loss at that, to the Patriots, their future, and especially for the 2020 season, looks a lot different than it did a few months ago. Heading into the year, they were ready to compete and go head-to-head for the AFC Conference with the Kansas City Chiefs, but things have certainly changed, and especially as of recent. Not only are the Ravens not playing great, but the Steelers are undefeated and are playing out of their minds. Lamar Jackson has definitely taken a step back between year 2 and year 3, and while we knew he couldn't play at the 2019 level for the rest of his career, it is concerning for Ravens fans for how he has played so far. Hall of Fame guard Marshall Yanda retired, and franchise tackle Ronnie Stanley is done for the year with a serious injury, so as far as I'm concerned, the Ravens are done for 2020. There's simply no way they can make up a 3-game gap between themselves and Pittsburgh between now and the rest of the season, and if they do make the playoffs, because the AFC wildcard race is a lot tighter than people realize, there's no way they make a run and win 3 straight road games to go to the Super Bowl. And if in the miraculous turn of events they would do that, and Lamar gets to a Super Bowl by doing that, then I would gladly admit I'm wrong, but I don't see that happening this year. So with that being said, the future of the Ravens is rather concerning from a roster standpoint, as their receivers aren't great and their offensive line aside from the tackles is definitely not great. Now, I'm not suggesting to move on from head coach John Harbaugh or anything like that, because he is an elite head coach and he will get them out of this. To the extent though, I don't know. The defense is solid for the most part, and with franchise cornerstones like Ronnie Stanley, Marlon Humphrey, and hopefully Lamar Jackson, they in theory should be in good hands. And to clear the hopefully Lamar Jackson comment up, I think he needs to improve down the stretch of the season, because as of now, he looks like a one-season wonder. I want Lamar to be the long-term answer and think he can be, but how that plays out is obviously to be determined. For Lamar to truly thrive and be close to the player he was in 2019 again, he will need better performances from those around him, as he simply cannot do everything. Yes, that includes the offensive line. The Ravens' 2020 season is done, as they're not going to do anything of note or make a deep playoff run by any means, but how they go about it and attack 2021 will be interesting to say the least. The AFC is absolutely loaded, and will soon be a conference with quarterbacks in it named Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, Tua, Herbert, Burrow, and Trevor Lawrence. The Ravens are an elite team, from the men who make the decisions upstairs to the players on the field, and I have no doubt they will eventually get this right. But for now, it is very concerning with how they've played in 2020, and we'll see what changes they make going forward. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like. It helps a ton. I will see you guys next time. Have a great day.